Hello and welcome to Money for Economics episode 7. In this episode, we'll talk about automobiles. If you want to get in touch, my email is in the top left corner of the screen. So, let's look at electric vehicles. I'm a big fan of making all vehicles electric, except some vehicles like special vehicles that might require fuel because of efficiency or because of some other type of constraint. To make vehicles viable, there has to be charging stations everywhere. So we're talking car parks, motorways, homes, infrastructure. Hospitals have to charge their own ambulances, things like that. So to really make it efficient, electric cars, the battery has to have as high endurance as possible. It has to last a long time. If one person can realistically maybe drive 1,000 kilometers before getting tired, then uh, that maybe the battery should be made to last 1,000, so that the driver drives 1,000, then rests, and while he's resting, the batteries are being charged. If you have two people in the car, obviously that can make for more kilometers to be driven. Charging time is to be reduced to a minimum, and also battery production has to be considered as well. So new auto factories. So there's countries with a lot of defunct brands, and theoretically the government can step in and revive those brands and put the factories of those brands in the same places that they were back in the day. Um, so there's that. There will be two kinds of auto factories. So the first one is just gonna mass produce certain models. The people can vote what models to be produced instead of others. And then the second type of factory is factories that are going to produce cars to the measures of the customer. Obviously, these cars will need to be structurally and safety proofed. Um, Size of cars is large. So some countries, people are very short, so the size of the cars are small. But I think cars would be quite large. Maybe not as large as American SUVs, but something like European sedans, maybe just like bigger European sedans is a decent size. We obviously want to take out planned obsolescence. So if we're talking about electric cars, theoretically you can make of the moving parts and everything. You can try and make that last as long as possible. I don't know how long that is, but it should be explored. Um, So, of course, as with our money for economics, all new cars are free of charge for the citizens. The government is responsible for making the factories, supplying the factories with steel, electronic components, stuff like that. Some countries they have all these different companies that produce spare parts. I think there should only just be one sort of main company that produces spare parts. So, like one main factory for the whole country. Owners who have old cars, they can take photos of their cars and scan them, and then send those photos to this like library of parts, and then that library of parts knows exactly the specifications of those spare parts that are in question, and then it can advertise those parts for the people to basically purchase, obviously, but purchase for free. Um, so as with scanning parts and taking photos of them, there can be sort of people, volunteers to go out across the country or go to other countries with specialized sort of tools that will help them to um, basically recreate a blueprint of those parts so that that blueprint can go into the library and be produced for people's needs. Importing vehicles. So this is basically I've put five sentences here. So these are like what if one doesn't work, we can try two. If two doesn't work, we can try three. So the first thing, people are gonna want to import foreign vehicles. That's always gonna be a thing. So the first thing, and I think is the best thing to do, is to actually invite all these foreign car manufacturers to the country in question, and then have them assemble sort of a part of those cars that are assembled can be given to the people in the money free country, and then um, a part of that are assembled can be exported, obviously, for other markets. If that doesn't work, I think there has to be imports with the own currency. So if that doesn't work, so if the government does have its own currency, it should offer to pay to import cars for people with that government's currency. If that doesn't work, then there has to be a foreign currency reserve, and then offered are, let's say if you're buying a European car, you're offering euros. You have a foreign currency. You have a euro currency reserve, and you're offering that for imports. To get those euros, you can also export cars that are produced in the money-free country to get that profit and to reinvest that profit. Motorsports. So a thing that should happen is to have for people to be able to car lovers to be able to make their own clubs where they can race, owner just hang around with other owners, or even just build custom racing cars. And if they want to do that, they need to be able to get a constant supply of all these components, um, things like that. So if a country doesn't have racing tracks for like major international competitions, they can be built. Obviously, there can be a certain participation in competitions, and obviously the money free country can host their own international competitions. So obviously there might be a lot of racing clubs and stuff. So for those people, there's smaller, less significant leagues, and then if they work their way up to becoming the best car teams um, in a specific type of racing, like where different cars, there's formula stuff like that to other cars. They can go to the highest championships. Classic owners. So if there's a ban on production of fuel cars, if everything goes electric, people are still going to have a lot of fuel cars, and they can be registered as classics. And then obviously these classic car owners, they can get allowances for petrol and diesel. So when the car is old, you don't want to drive it around a lot to not wear all the moving parts. So that sort of coincides with these petrol and diesel allowances. Heavy vehicles are the vehicles to be considered military purpose vehicles. Military purpose vehicles, they can be electric, but I think you can make the case the military vehicles should remain based on fuel for many reasons. Other stuff, private and public teachers, testing is done by the government. Battery recycling operations, that's very important. Obviously, there can be car data feeding to this automobile government department. There can be a computerized car repair history, so the government department has that repair history and other information to do with the repairs. There should be public car shops to do all the sort of certify yearly or stuff like that, like certification stuff. So, supply priorities, these are things, some other things. I just want to comment on number three, a National Auto Corporation. So, all the car factories, they should be consolidated into one sort of body that will be subordinated to the government. And then they can have their own car design agencies. We can even, in basic education, there can be, or secondary education, there can be courses for automobile design, things like that. I'm a huge fan of not having self-driving cars, but just having cars that are um, that can transmit sort of that are not self-driving, but that they have certain electrical components to help the driver. That would be that for this episode.